People always ask me why I have thermometers in my garbage piles. Let me explain. These are compost thermometers, and they help me to monitor what's actually going on in my compost piles. So this thing is 18 inches long. You can get them as long as 36 inches, but it actually works basically the same as a meat thermometer, like when you're cooking your Thanksgiving turkey. If you've ever thought about how like barbecue pork is made, you slow roast it. You want it to cook slowly, so you cook it at a lower temperature to keep it nice and moist. The higher the temperature, the faster it's gonna cook, but you're also gonna lose some of the goodness that you could possibly have in there. Composting is the reason that I never have to weed or water my garden. You can see all of this around me. It is exactly what I planted in the spring, and my only garden chore is harvesting whatever it is that I actually planted. If you're able to learn a few small basics about composting, it will not only feed your garden, it will also feed your family. 12 years ago, the majority of the food that we ate was coming from the food bank. I wanted to plant my own garden and grow some of my own food and hopefully eat better stuff, but I had no idea where to start. Back then, I lived in the city, and my first compost pile turned into a literal rat's nest, bringing rodents and raccoons and all kinds of other city wildlife that I absolutely didn't want in my backyard. Temperature really matters when it comes to making compost, because depending on what you've got inside your pile, there are certain things like meat, bones, like animal products that actually need to be composted at a certain temperature for them to break down and then become soil that is actually safe to use in our garden. So if we're just doing plants or whatever else, you could have a cold, slow composting compost pile and it would be fine. But if we want to compost literally everything, keep every input that's been put into our farm on the farm and then reuse it, at the end of the day, we really have to know that we're composting at safe temperatures. Basically, what we're looking for is to keep our compost pile consistently in the 90 to 160 degree range at all times. The other thing too is I'm a pretty impatient person. I want results as quickly as I can possibly get them, and learning about the Berkeley method of composting, which creates finished compost in 18 days, with the use of composting thermometers, I'm able to actually achieve that. So basically, I have to create a pile that is built a very specific way that will then start to be hot, and then I'm gonna keep it hot throughout that entire 18-day process by continually rotating it and stirring it and making sure that all the things that need to touch each other start touching and breaking down. And then I can create finished compost from vegetables and other scraps around the farm in 18 days. For me, the reason why these compost thermometers are so fantastic is because it is a visual reminder to me to check and see what's going on. It's in my way, along my way. I walk this little pathway about 150 times a day. So 150 times a day, all I have to do is glance over here to see what's going on with my pile. And then you'll notice too, I've got my tools right here. So should I need to do something with my pile, I can be ready to do it at an instant's notice. I've made a lot of content about composting over the years, and one of the most frequently asked questions that I get is, what does it actually mean to flip the pile? Do I actually have to flip it? Do I actually have to rotate it? And really what you're doing literally is just turning the pile inside out. A shovel isn't always the right tool for it too, depending on what you've got in your pile. So another great tool to have is one of these hay forks. As I get into the later stages of a pile, the shovel works great because you've got a lot looser, littler pieces. But at the beginning, using this will help us to get more purchase and just move more material in a hurry. So you might notice my beautiful 3-bin system here. It's nothing fancy, it's made out of pallets, but you don't have to have a 3-bin system or even piles this big for your compost to work. What you really need is basically enough mass, weight, and moisture, along with carbon and nitrogen, which all of that sounds super fancy and whatever else, but it's literally, carbons are browns, which is literally most things that are brown. Paper products, things from trees, leaves, wood chips, sawdust from my wood shop, and greens are anything that has moisture in it. So we've got tomatoes, which are red, but they're still a green because they are a vegetable and you know, they've got moisture in it. So that moisture is going to combine with the carbon and cause everything to break down perfectly. So say we've got everything going the way that it should. It's a 3 foot by 3 foot roughly pile. It's like moist to the touch, but not wet enough that you're able to squeeze water out of it. And you've got what you think are the right combination of greens and browns or carbons and nitrogens, but your temperature is still too low. So it's fallen down below, you know, that 90 to 140 range. And if that's the case, my quickest fix is either to water down the pile with my hose, just get it really, really wet and see if that changes in a day or two, but also to go to any coffee shop, ask them for their spent coffee beans, or any brewery, ask them for their spent grains, and mix that into the pile and see what happens then. Because usually it's the absence of enough things to break down that are keeping your pile cool, or too much or not enough moisture. If you've done all that and it's still down below the 90-degree range, it probably just needs to be stirred, because as these piles start to break down, the things that are causing it to break down are getting smaller and smaller, and therefore further and further apart. And that's exactly why we actually flip our pile, because we want all that stuff to start touching again. And that's how you avoid hot garbage. I've made so many mistakes over the last 12 years, and I really want to help you not make the same ones. I have collected 12 years of gardening mistakes on my Squarespace website, anofalltrades.com. There you'll also find articles about how to plant your first garden and what to actually do with the things once you pick them. I'm the kind of person that likes to be outside getting my hands dirty. I am not super tech savvy, but Squarespace has made it super easy for me to take whatever little nuggets or lessons that I've learned along the way, for me to drag and drop into a beautiful artist design template and then share it with you for free. If you are anything like me and you have lots of ideas that you maybe want to share with others too, check out squarespace.com. And when you're ready to launch your website, go to squarespace.com/AnnofAllTrades for a 10% discount. One more quick tip for you. I told you about my compost thermometers being on the path that I walk every day, so that the thing that I needed to monitor was where I'd actually see it. And the compost piles themselves are also right in between the 3 places that I'm most often getting compost. I work full-time, I farm in the margins, and I live a very busy life. I'm sure you do too. So if you are a busy person that wants to have a garden that actually works for you, check out my video, How to Be a Better Lazy Gardener. I'll see you there. Cheers!